So what are we actually doing?
I guess I'll just introduce the show.
But no, wait.
That's
no.
a blooper that's staying.
No.
Sorry, that's hilarious. You're listening to Good is in the Details. I'm Gwendolyn Dolske.
And I'm Rudy Salo.
And this is the podcast where we learn what we didn't know in the spirit of Socrates. All for the effort of self-improvement and living a healthier, better life.
That was good.
Right, Rudy. Awkward
yes,
pause. Okay, all right, okay, good.
Well, the reason why that was the awkward pause is because I thought you were going to say what this episode is about. And I can go ahead and say that because I'm the one that insisted that we do this.
Mm-hmm, you go for it.
This is the 100th episode of Good is in the Details podcast. Now, I have not been on 100 episodes. I've been on about 75 to 80% of them. But I feel like I've been there with you all along the way. So I want to clap my hands to you and congratulate you on 100 episodes of this great podcast. I am proud to be a part of it. I was on episode number 2, all about infrastructure. That was the first, all about LA infrastructure.
Oh, yeah.
That was the very
Still one of our top
rated. Thank you. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This episode, we usually have an expert come on and we talk about a particular topic. We love everybody that has come onto the show. Obviously, we love our listeners, and we're going to do some shout outs to a lot of listeners on this. But today, this is just about mostly you, partly me, and about the show, both past, present, and future. This won't be a particularly long episode, but I wanted to take the opportunity to congratulate you and this podcast on the 100th episode. How do you feel about that?
Thank you, first of all. The other thing is 100 episodes. I just think back to where we started. If you remember me coming to you and saying, hey, I have this idea and you were on board. I think we talked about this on Seize the Moment podcast about how it all got started. And I'm just so grateful because I didn't have an audience yet. And it was just an idea. It was just a hunch. And you were on board. And I've told other people that if you're ever in a position where you can put your faith into somebody, you listen to their idea, please do it because it's meant so much to me that you did that. And I think that we've made such a great team. We've evolved. And I also think, do you remember when we first started this out that my computer crashed?
I do. Yeah. You, by the way, you're still using that crappy computer. And I'm not going to name the brand. Oh, is this did you?
This is a new one. I had to get a new one. I think it's been
I thought you had that one rebuilt.
No.
Oh, okay, well that's good. Well, we're not saying the brand, right? Because we're not crapping on brands. Because we're looking for advertisers. Hint, anyone out there. Mm-hmm. So we're not. I do remember that, and I'm glad you touched upon that about you not having an audience. And really, what this episode is about our guests that we've had. We'll talk about it, but our actual audience. And to say big time thank you. We would not have been able to get to 100 episodes had we not built an audience. This is a huge thank you. If you love the show, please do share it. Please, tell people what is it that you like about it. Some feedback that I've gotten from some audience members, what they like. It really is not about how funny I am or how witty and smart you are. That has nothing to do with it. It really comes down to what I've heard is people like that we will talk about a wide range of topics. We will always apply some kind of a philosophical approach to that topic because lives are complicated. Our lives are complicated. Living life is complicated, but we will talk about a topic in a way that people will say, I listened to the whole episode and at the end of it, I thought about things differently, or that topic didn't interest me at all, but now it kind of, at least I have some background in it and I could think about it in a different way. I mean, think about it, Gwen. We talk about something that affects everybody's life, not only in the United States, but in the world, such as public corruption. We've had Jeff Cortese, our good friend who's been on the show 4 times. He's one of our 4-time guests. We talk about public corruption. You go on the news and you hear about corruption this, corruption that all the time, but we talk about that on the show. Social media. We talk about the effects that social media has on our children and how to have a positive approach with it, how to, kind of treat it a different way. We've talked about that with Erin Darling. We've talked about that with Angela Gorrell. We talk about film. We talk about racism. We talk about books. We talk about really what's it like to live our life, but a better life. And so I do appreciate it when our audience tells us why they like our show and what we can do better. I never hear, Rudy, can you tell more jokes? Because we love your jokes. That's unfortunate. But I don't know if you, what have you heard from our audience members?
It was really special. I've had people approach me. So one time when I was walking Zadie in the stroller down the street in Sierra Madre, and I had music in my ear. So it took me a while to hear this person who had gotten up from a restaurant, saw me walking by, and chased me down the street to tell me that he liked our show. And he went to the same gym, CrossFit Pendulum, where we had Drew Gurton on, the owner of that, to talk about fitness. And so this person listened to that episode and then decided to click on another episode. And it was The Morality of Batman. And he chased me down the street to tell me how much he liked the episodes and that he shared them with other people. The Batman one he really loved with Mark D. White. That meant so much for me. And we just saw him on Facebook, and I said, I remember when you stopped me in the street. And he said, how can you remember that? But for us, when somebody reaches out and tells us how much the episode means, it matters. It really, really matters. It fuels us, and we love putting out good stuff into the world. The world is hard right now. So many people have different things going on in their lives. And what I really enjoy about the show is that we're using the tools of philosophy, your natural wit and excellent hair, and expertise in law and science fiction and film to talk about the exciting and good ideas that are out there. So the other day I was in a cafe, it just reminds me of this. I was in a cafe out here in LA, one of my favorite places, The Alchemist. God, I love it so much. And I bumped into a student there, a former student, and he came up and said hello to me. And he said, I was your student in your engineering ethics class. I said, oh, hey, how are you doing? And then he asked, so are you still doing the podcast? And that's just really, really nice to bump into people and they're asking about it. I mean, it's nice to see the smile on people's faces that they are enjoying what we're putting out there.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned Mark D. White. The episode prior to this 100th episode was our episode on Thor. And I'll give a shout out to, it was great. I'll give a shout out to my wife, who has actually been both a guest and a guest host on Good As in the Details. She was your co-host for the PMS episode, which I learned a lot on. I mean, I wasn't on it. I produced that episode with Dr. Katie Valentin, good friend of mine, but I listened to it. I even told plenty of my friends, male friends, to listen to it. And it's like, I promise you will learn something. It will help whatever relationship that you're in with, you're a female companion. And people have agreed with me on that one. But I'll give a shout out to Kate, because she said, Rudy, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't want to listen to the Thor episode. I had no interest in it. Thor is my least favorite Marvel character, even though he's great in the MCU. I'm no interest in it. She listened to the whole thing. She now has a newfound appreciation of Thor. And the whole concept of his struggle is with self-worth. I love that episode because I struggle with my own self-worth, and I'm always trying to improve. One of the reasons why I feel lucky as your co-host is because I'm not just a co-host. I am a student. On every single episode, I am paying attention and I'm trying to learn for me to live a better life. And so I do think that there is a benefit of applying this useless thing called philosophy that never gives you any answers. Because it's not supposed to. It's supposed to make you think, and it's supposed to make you think about there's some sub-objective tenets of it, but you got to apply those in your mind in a subjective way to apply them into your life. That's the great thing about the show. So thank you for letting me be a co-host and a student. So this is the 100th episode. What do you want to see for the next 100 episodes?
Oh my goodness. Okay, we're definitely getting more merch. You and I are working on a book. We're already in the outlining phases. It's going to be out next spring. So people want to know more about what are our thoughts on not just podcasting, but maybe some reflections on some of our favorite episodes. One of the things I want to see in the future that I would like to build on really is these lovely conversations with our guests. And I just had a memory. Something I've learned through podcasting is the capacity to be vulnerable. I think back in some of our episodes. So Rudy, you say you're always learning. And with learning, there's humility. And I think about some moments where I cringed because I had a question that was I thought just kind of airheady. But what I appreciate about you, Rudy, is that we know each other well enough that we're able to be vulnerable when we're asking our questions and seeking out to know more. And there's sometimes when I'm just laughing, like I'm thinking about the one that we did with Dr. McCanta, where I was asking about why would you go to the heart through the groin? And I had clearly had a basic error in anatomy. But it's those moments of vulnerability that I think are also important. And I hope when my students listen to this, that they know that too, that in order to learn and to grow, we don't always have to be perfect. Social media is telling us to be perfect, or we always want to put our best foot forward. And there's no room for these very human moments of when we make errors. So one of the things I love about our relationship and the way we interact with our guests, and what I hope our listeners get, is that we're on this journey of learning as well. We're not coming on here and having all of the answers. We're genuinely curious. And I just want to see that trend evolve. I just want to see more of that, more laughter, more learning. Guests, I want to do more relationship episodes because I think people just have so many questions, and about finance stuff. I absolutely love that. I learned so much. And so for the future, more merch, and we're going to have a book out.
100%.
100 more episodes.
100
more
sponsors.
Episodes. Hey, you need to say, hey, people listening, we would like some more sponsors. Okay, we've had some awesome sponsors like Magic Mind. Check it out. Details 14. That's your discount code. I'll put it in the show notes. We've had some great sponsors. So I also want to connect with other podcasts. Sorry, I'm rambling now. Now you got me all excited. I have loved when we've interacted with other podcasts like Erin Darling's. We were on Hot Pizza Ass and she was on ours. We had the two philosophers drink beer and watch film,
which is now defunct. Yeah.
They just wrapped it up. But it was so much fun to have them on our show. And I love interacting with other podcasters. And Overthink Pod, that was really nice.
Yeah, it was, interestingly enough, before there was Overthink, one of the co-hosts of that show, she was wasn't she one of the guest co-hosts on here on a couple of shows of this? So,
with Damiana.
That's right, which is, I know, is what, doesn't have Rudy on it, but it's got BDSM, and that's a big topic these days, is, people are interested in that. Glad you focused on that. The podcast community, it is a huge community. And we've had a lot of other podcasters on here and people that have now launched their podcasts. As you mentioned, Overthink Pod. Divide and Thrive is now its own podcast.
Oh, yeah.
But we had the founder of that on here before anything. Matt Ritter, who has a Man of the Year podcast now. He was on our show talking about his book, Tasteless Jokes. That was terrific. We've had Leon from the I'm thinking of Leon's handle, the name of the podcast.
Seize the Moment.
Yes, it's the Seize the Moment podcast. Leon's been fantastic. We have had so many other podcasters on here. We even did the episode on spoilers, and they have their own podcast. Liz Farmer, she's been on our show 3 times. She now has her own podcast, The Money Pod. And so I do feel like our show has been very supportive of existing podcasters, or, people have come on, they've had some fun with us, and they're like, you know what, I want to go do our podcast. And we are supporting them, and we are retweeting them, and we're helping them out. We've got a lot of good friends on Good Pods. We've got a lot of good friends out there that we're going to continue to support. So I think in the next 100 episodes, we definitely want to double down on helping other podcasters, and we're willing to help them out too. You and I have gone on to other shows and done some interviews, and we both promoted this show and kind of promoted ourselves. And I really do enjoy podcasting as a medium. The book that we are writing, I think, will be terrific because it really is about the essence of podcasting and the community of it, and the tools of it's podcasting is revolutionary. You can learn so much from many, many, many different topics. You can go find your niche podcast, or you could just listen to Good as in the Details, because we're probably going to cover the topic. Seriously, Gwen, what topic have we not covered yet that you want to see us cover?
You're right. We have covered everything I was just going to say, as far as the book goes, when I was thinking about writing and what essays, what I want to contribute that we're going to put out there, because I want it to be a bit of like a how-to book and also some reflections on some of our favorite moments and how that changed me. And I wrote a chapter the other day that was about one of my favorite episodes with a scholar on Simone de Beauvoir. So for listeners, I did my doctoral thesis on existential literature, and I really enjoy the philosophy of Simone de Beauvoir. And I was at a conference, and I had a chance to talk to one of the leading experts on Simone de Beauvoir. And I was remembering this because I thought it was just my interest. Nobody would really like it, but I really, really wanted to talk to this scholar because she's the only American scholar who worked with Simone de Beauvoir. Now, what I wanted to ask her was, what was that like to meet Simone de Beauvoir? I didn't want to just talk shop or anything like that. And it ended up being a lovely conversation. The scholar, she gave me a hug after. She didn't know what she was getting into when I said, hey, I'm a junior scholar on this. You're a big name, but can I talk to you? And what I learned is that episode got retweeted so much because everyone else who's interested in Simone de Beauvoir was retweeting it. So I want to tell people who are interested in doing their own podcasts, one of the lessons that I learned was that, first of all, it's important to connect. People enjoy sharing their stories. So you want to be a good listener, an enthusiastic listener, and that when you demonstrate that and you respect the people who have this wisdom and you're part of sharing that wisdom, you are building a community and you're building a better place. You're building a legacy. And also go with your gut, because if you are interested in this, there is someone else out there who's also interested in it. If you are trying to just get all the blue check marks, well, I don't know how Twitter's going to turn out. But anyway, if you're just trying to get all the blue check marks, all the highest number people who has a ton of followers, you're just fitting into a box. You're not really exploring your own interests, and you might be recycling content. So just, I don't know. That's one of the essays that I wrote the other day, is like not only about that interview, but what I really learned about myself and the importance of this medium.
Yeah, something I want to explore either in the book or possibly, I would, every time we ask the audience to like, hey, what do you think about this? Please let us know. We're not getting that much out there, but that's okay. I really am obsessed with the topic of happiness, but that's so like, of course, everyone's obsessed with happiness. No, I'm talking about happy lawyers. Lawyers tend to be pretty unhappy people. They just are. I happen to be one of those unhappy lawyers who is now happy as a result of a lot of the work that I have done for happiness. And I teach as well. I teach at Chapman University School of Law. And part of my class, I incorporate a lot of TED Talks into, because I teach how to be a deal lawyer. But in my thinking, whenever you're teaching law students how to be anything, one of the essence of being a lawyer is you got to be happy, you got to be healthy, you got to be ethical, and then you'll be a great lawyer. Like without those things, I don't think you can be a great lawyer. So I'm kind of obsessed with happiness and the law. And I would probably like to have a couple of episodes with lawyers, people who I think are happy lawyers. I'd love to hear what people think about that. If people think that would be a good idea. I think we do have a lot of undergraduate students as our audience members, and we, big shout out to you. Thank you very much. We are always trying to think of what's it like to be in college these days. What's it like to enter into the job market? I do think having more episodes on finances would be a good topic. We've had 3 or 4 of those, with Mark Farley and my friend Joseph D. Cruz and others. I think it's something very, very important, especially as we're clearly going into a recession with higher interest rates, and how does that affect you? And I could talk about that stuff on my own, nerd out on it. But yeah, no, I really would like to hear if people think happiness and the law would be something interesting for them to continue to listen to. If not, that'll probably be one of the topics in the book. I
would love that. You know what? You're reminding me. I'm reading another John Grisham book. I just love them because I was just traveling between here and Spokane, just picked up another John Grisham, and it's so good. And it just reminds me of what John Grisham wanted to do as a practicing lawyer. He wanted to elevate his life. And so he just dedicated, in the morning, he would write 1 page before work. And that's what did it for him. And he's got these great stories. And I think the first one was A Time to Kill. That's how he worked on being a happy lawyer, was that he couldn't just have the law. He had a story inside him. And so he had to find a way to make it work.
And let's focus on what did he need for happiness? Creativity.
Yeah.
And that is a topic that we have talked about a lot on this episode. The last time we talked, really focused on creativity, was with WGA screenwriter Brooke Elms. Shout out to you. And we've talked about creativity and the importance of thinking of yourself as a creative person and doing something creative towards happiness. So thank you for bringing up that example. I do think that the key to happiness is doing something creative. And I would like to focus even more on that in the next 100 episodes as well.
I'm so excited. 100 episodes. All right. So everybody, we want to hear from you. Instagram, Good is in the Details Pod. Screenshot your favorite episode or this episode and tag us. You can email goodisinthe.detailspod@gmail.com. If you want any merch or have any ideas for merch, well, we've got beanies right now. All right, merch. Yeah. And we want to hear what was your favorite episode. If you want to give us some ideas, some feedback on Rudy's sense of humor, that would be lovely.
If I need to go back to stand-up comedy classes, I'll go back. Whatever I got to do to make people laugh, I'll do it. Whatever.
Share, tell us if you've shared an episode that was your favorite, where you just said, oh, hey, so-and-so, you have to listen to this episode. We would love to know that so that we know what's working and we can continue to create great content. If you want extra content, go to patreon.com/goodisinthe-details. I'll link that in the show notes. And yeah, thank you, everybody. 100 episodes. And I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. This is part of our thankfulness.
This is a part of our thankfulness episode. Thank you for listening to 100 episodes. May there be hundreds more. And may those 100 episodes be listened by even thousands upon thousands of people. Whatever you can do to help us, please do. We are thankful for you. Keep kicking ass.
Bye.